Outnumbered. I'm Kayleigh McEnany here with my co-host Emily Campagno. Also joining us, Fox Business anchor and host of American Dream Home, Cheryl Casoni. Restoring America editor for the Washington Examiner and senior fellow for the Independent Women's Forum, Kaylee McGee-White. And Fox News contributor and host of the David Webb Show on SiriusXM Patriot, who other than David Webb himself. All right, well, welcome. The battle for New Hampshire is underway with 6 days to go until the state's Republican presidential primary. A brand new poll out today shows former President Trump remaining as the clear frontrunner with 50% support. Look at that. Nikki Haley firmly in second place with 34%, and Governor DeSantis in a distant third. Trump and Haley are holding dueling rallies tonight, while Ron DeSantis is holding a town hall this hour. Meanwhile, Vivek Ramaswamy threw his support behind Trump in this fiery speech last night.
We are in the middle of a war in this country. That's what this is. It's between the permanent state and the everyday citizen. Between those of us who love the United States of America and a fringe minority who hates this country. And that is why last evening I met my friend here. We met in person, and I told him that I would endorse Donald J. Trump for president of the United States and do everything in my power to lead us to victory in this war. It is a 1776 moment right now.
It's an honor to have his endorsement. He's going to be working with us, and he'll be working with us for a long time.
What a moment. Vivek Ramaswamy, Kayleigh, he's a talented communicator. I could absolutely see him in a Trump administration in a managerial role, let's say clearing out the deep state, the czar of cleaning out the deep state. You saw the calls for Veep, Veep, Veep there. I maintain the VP is a very important position this cycle. I think you have a fractured Republican Party that needs to unite. And I think you need a 1980 type pick, a George H.W. Bush who joined Reagan and the party came together, establishment, Republican, conservative. You need Republicans from all corners. Vivek, he's very popular among young people, maybe a little harder of a sell with independent, with suburban women. So maybe a pick that could add to the ticket is a better pick.
Right, and there's nothing that Vivek has really endorsed that's outside of the MAGA agenda that Trump is touting. So I actually don't think he'll be that tough of a swallow for independents, because if they're voting for Trump, they're voting for all of those things that Vivek wants to happen anyway. And I think that one of the important things about Vivek is also that he's young. And as you mentioned, this could actually help Trump with turning out the youth enthusiasm and the young vote. One of the recent Iowa exit polls found that Trump actually lost to DeSantis. He lost the young vote by 14 points. So that tells me that young voters are looking for fresher faces, for newer ideas to be inserted into the Republican Party. And I think there's also this concern that Trump is going to face, that Joe Biden also faces, and that they're both getting older. What happens if something were to happen to them? Who takes over? And I think that choosing someone who has proved that he is on board with the MAGA agenda, who has clearly made an impression among Trump supporters, could be one of the ways that Trump solves that problem.
Emily, we went through the Real Clear polling averages yesterday, politics averages, and you saw Trump with a staunch lead. You saw Nikki Haley, when you added in the Christie support, she kind of got within 3-4 points in the Real Clear politics average. But I saw this interesting passage in the New York Times. It was only 2 sentences, so you had to read closely to catch it. But listen to this. Internal polling from the Christie campaign also found that a majority of his supporters would likely go to Miss Haley. You would expect that. Somewhat surprisingly, a small subset would likely switch to Mr. Trump, but it's unlikely to be a one-to-one switch. I mean, Christie, the guy who hammered Trump in a very personal way, would have some of his support move to Trump is interesting. The reason I bring it up is this isn't necessarily like drop the Christie people in the Haley bucket, drop the Ramaswamy people in the Trump bucket. It's a little more complicated.
That's right. So not only is it a little more complicated, but it also means that the landscape is a little bit more to be determined, right? So New Hampshire really is what makes it far more exciting, but also unpredictable. So let's add in a couple extra X's and O's to what you just said. So we know that New Hampshire is home to more moderate to independent Republicans, and DeSantis hasn't fared so well with them, right? But in the stop that he just made in South Carolina, he said it's not too late to change course. Now, Haley, meanwhile, is seeking support from the state's undeclared voters, which, as we know, can vote in either the GOP or the Democratic primary. Now, you add to that, we know that coming out of Iowa, and according, more importantly, to a recent poll in New Hampshire, that immigration is the most pressing issue for those voters, for those states' likely voters, and that's 24%. That's followed by the economy. We saw that pattern this week in Iowa, and more than half of likely voters say President Biden's handling of the southern border makes them less likely to vote for him, while 30% say illegal immigration is our country's biggest threat. So when you add all of that against that landscape, now we don't have a 1-to-1 ratio from the Christie voters, and now Vivek, that's an exciting landscape where anything can happen.
You know, Cheryl, I saw this soundbite when I was in my office, and it's J.P. Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon. He's not necessarily one who's out there as, you know, a drumbeat for Trump or conservatives, but he had some of the wisest words I have heard this campaign cycle for Democrats. Listen to this.
I wish the Democrats would think a little more carefully when they talk about MAGA. When people say MAGA, they're actually looking at people voting for Trump, and they think they're voting, and they're basically scapegoating them. He wasn't wrong about some of these critical issues, and that's why they're voting for him. And I think people should be a little more respectful of our fellow citizens. And when you guys have people up here, you should always ask the why. Not like it's a binary thing. You're supporting Trump, you're not supporting Trump. Why are you supporting Trump?
It's hard to hate 75 million of your fellow Americans, and
I agree.
It's done quite
and, you know, the Democrats have done a pretty good job with the deplorables, hugging onto their Bibles and their beer and their guns. I mean, really? Like, could we just stop that stuff and actually grow up and treat other people with respect and listen to them a little bit? And I do think the economy will affect, and I think this negative talk about MAGA is going to hurt Biden's election campaign.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, look, Jamie Dimon is a businessman. I mean, first and foremost, he's talking about the plight of the American consumer. Remember, he's the one that looks at all the credit card balances and the savings accounts and everything. He knows where the money is and where the problems are. More importantly, he's always been very moderate. But what he's saying is that get past the name calling and look at the policies. You may not like Donald Trump, you may not have liked him as a president, but maybe you liked his policies. And a lot of his policies, also in that interview, he pointed out, and he said this on Fox Business last week as well, was taxes. He was right about NATO. He was right about China. He handled the border better than Joe Biden. The Biden administration has handled the southern border. But also, too, he did make, if you notice, he's very, very careful with his words. That's why we like to interview him on Fox Business, because he'll say to you, look, you know, look at the underlying current and don't dismiss those voters because you are going to regret it. That was a warning to Joe Biden. That's what that was just now.
David Webb, two people who might want to listen to Jamie Dimon, Rachel Maddow, Jake Tapper. Watch them cut off Donald Trump.
At this point in the evening, the projected winner of the Iowa caucuses has just started giving his victory speech. We will keep an eye on that as it happens. There is a reason that we and other news organizations have generally stopped giving an unfiltered live platform to remarks by former President Trump. His remarks tonight will not air here live. We will monitor them.
Donald Trump declaring victory with a historically strong showing in the Iowa caucuses. If these numbers hold, here he is right now under my voice. You hear him repeating his anti-immigrant rhetoric. Majorities of caucus goers saying that they believe the lie.
All right, so let me get this straight. In the last 48 hours, Rachel Maddow has pushed the lie about the Texas border deaths, the woman with the 2 children, which the Biden administration knew was a lie. So did Alejandro Mayorkas. That's one. Jake Tapper said, well, some of those people that went against Claudine Gay are racist. So consider the source. They cut the president off because it doesn't fit their narrative, and they can't run with it. So they switched to, well, almost half voted against Trump. They're trying any which way to go against him. But I'm going to go back to something Jamie Dimon said that ties into this. Jamie used the word economy. J.P. Morgan Chase has been increasing its reserves for coming defaults, credit card defaults, $1 trillion in credit card debt. Jamie Dimon's talking about the economy and about J.P. Morgan Chase and what matters to them with rate changes that are coming or not, and will we really stand on core inflation and 17+% 5% over time. So pay attention to the American people in New Hampshire. I've spent decades there since college. Pay attention to the independent voters who think in conservative and libertarian. This is the home of John Stark. Live free or die. This is not just about the demagoguery of Americans.
Yeah, it's hard to hate 75 million Americans, which you heard the moderator say there. Very good point. Maybe you should listen, Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Compagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kayleigh McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.